Almost everyone has to format data that comes from a database or a spreadsheet sooner or later. Perhaps it's a company directory or 1,000 different personalized labels. When you have a bunch of data that you need to lay out, the first thing you should think of is DataMerge. It's a whole database publishing feature hidden inside of InDesign's panels. Here, let me show you. We'll go to the Window menu and choose Automation. Under the Automation submenu, we choose DataMerge. Now, DataMerge is not as powerful as some of the other third-party database tools that are on the market. For example, I've gotten great results from a plugin called InData from mSoftware. That's emsoftware.com. But while InData does far more than DataMerge, it also costs more. If you can make it work with DataMerge, which comes with InDesign, then obviously that's the thing to do. In order for DataMerge to work, you need two things: a file with all the raw unformatted data, which is usually a tab delimited or a comma delimited file, which you can export from pretty much any spreadsheet or database, and you need an InDesign file that has a template that says where the data should go and how to format it. I'm going to switch to Microsoft Excel for a moment to show you the data that I have to work with. It's not a lot of data, but you can imagine this could be lots and lots of pages worth of data. We have the item name, the price, a code, the picture, which I'll talk about in just a moment, and the introduction date. We want to import this information into our InDesign template, putting the right thing in the right place. Notice that the first line must be field names. You can't just start with French press. We have to start with the actual names of each of these fields: item, price, code, etc. That's what DataMerge is going to be using. I'll show you that in just a minute. In this column, we have a bunch of pictures, and you can see that these are the names of the files on disk. If you're going to be importing pictures, the label of that column must start with an @ sign. I don't know why, that's just the way it is. I guess that tells DataMerge, hey, this is all going to be pictures. Now in this case, the data file is going to be in the same folder as these images, so I don't have to type specific file paths to the images. But if the images were elsewhere, then I would have to actually type a path. Now, random note there, if you're typing paths on Windows, you need to use backslashes between each of the directories. On the Mac, use a colon between each folder name. Okay, I've already exported this out as a tab delimited file. Just in case you didn't have Excel on your machine, I wanted to make sure you had a tab delimited file in your links folder of your exercises folder. So I'm going to switch back to InDesign, and I'm going to import that here. Now the DataMerge panel is so simple it actually even gives you instructions, 1, 2, and 3. Just what you should do. The first one is select a data source from the panel menu. So I'm going to grab select data source, and it says where is the file? Here it is, javacodedata.txt. That's the tab delimited file. I'll open that, and the first thing we see is that all the field names appear here. That's the labels that were on the first line of the spreadsheet. Now how do we get this into our template here? It's really, really easy. I'll simply select my picture frame here, my graphic frame, and then click on Picture. Did you see that? It says Picture in these little angle brackets. I've tagged that picture frame with the picture label here. Now I want to put some other information down in this text frame. So I'm going to double click on that to place the cursor inside the frame here, and I will click on Item first. Let's grab that item name. Then I'll press Return on my keyboard, and let's say we want the code, and then I'll press Return, and then we want the price of that item. There we go. We've got item, code, and price. Notice that I'm not going to use the introduction date in this particular layout. You don't have to use all the fields. I just don't click on it, and it's not added. Next step is to format this stuff. We don't need to format the picture, but we do need to format this text. So I'll click on that first item, named Item, and I've got some paragraph styles in this file. If you want to follow along, remember that this is the Javaco item tags file from your exercises folder. Item will be the item paragraph style. That's easy. Code will apply code style, and price will apply the price style. It's as simple as that. Now for the price, I'm going to put a $sign at the beginning of that line because in the Excel file there was no $sign there. So I'm going to add that manually. I'll do the same thing with this code. I'm going to put a number sign before the code to indicate that that's a code. So, good. So we've added some static text in there. We've added our code text in here, the DataMerge text in here, and now it's time to merge the two together. But before we do the final merge, it would be helpful to preview it. Fortunately, there's a preview checkbox. Let's click that checkbox, and we can see That is the first item in our spreadsheet. So there's the picture that was brought in, the name of it, the code, and the price, and it's all formatted perfectly. Let me close the paragraph styles panel here. We can also click through each of these records. There's the second one, there's the third one, and so on. And you can see the data is coming in just perfectly. So that's great. I think we're good to go. Let's go ahead and choose Create Merge Document from the flyout menu. Or you could simply click on this little Create Merge button. There we go. Now it's going to ask, what records do you want? Do we want all the records or a range of records? I'm going to pick all of them. I'm going to be adventurous here. Let's get all of our records. We could say whether we want a single record on the final page, that is, each page is just going to have one record on it, or do you want it to gang them up? And in this case, I think we could probably get 4 per page, so let's try that. I'll move this out of the way so we can see it better. You have a couple options here, whether you want a overset text report. That could be handy if you think there's any chance that text might get overset on some of the frames. And an alert if images are missing. Of course, that would be very helpful. And let's go ahead and preview this multiple record layout. There we go. Oh, it looks like we did get all 4 of them on a page. We can change this a little bit by going to the multiple record layout, and this gives us controls over how big the margins should be and how much space do we want in between each of these. For example, if I want to increase the amount of space between columns, I could increase that to 4 picas, and we see we have more space there. Finally, I'll click on the Options tab, and we can see how our image is going to be imported. I'm telling InDesign to fill every frame proportionally. So I want the picture to be as big as it can possibly be so that it fills the frame, so I don't have any extra white space around the edge. I want to center it in the frame, and I want to link images. So that's a typical thing. I mean, it's just going to link to the images on disk, just like normal. You also have options like remove blank lines for empty fields. I like turning that on. In other words, if there was no code, for example, if the code field was missing here, it would simply remove that entire line. It would not give me an extra blank space between these. So that's really handy. And also we could say, how many pages do we want to limit? If you were bringing in a lot of data, you might want to limit the number of pages. DataMerge is not industrial strength. You don't want to bring in 10,000 records into InDesign with DataMerge. I would be comfortable with a few hundred. Maybe 1,000, but you want to probably break it down. It's just not super strong in my experience. Great, this is looking perfect. It's previewing really nicely. Let's go ahead and make our final document. I'll click OK, and it builds a new document with each one of those items on it, and now it's a real document. You see that's actually separate from the original document. Let me close our DataMerge panel here. And you can see it added a page, so we've got 2 pages. There's the information on the second page. By the way, I should point out that multiple record layout feature of actually ganging up more than one per page, that doesn't work if you have more than one page in your document. That'll only work if you only have a single page in your document. But look at this. Every time I use DataMerge, I just smile. It is so amazing to see InDesign do all that work for me. You gotta love automation.